Rock, hip-hop, jazz, R&B, funk, punk, and disco. There are many different kinds of popular music, each one with its own unique sound and style. And it seems that they have very little in common with each other. In fact, there is one kind of music that is at the center of most modern styles. And it has played a very important part in creating popular music as we know it today. That music is called the blues. To understand why the blues has had such a big influence on music, we need to go back to its beginnings, in the deep south of the USA in the 19th century. At this time, African Americans were forced to work as slaves on cotton and tobacco plantations. Singing songs to each other as they worked was the only way they had to express themselves. Over time, people started to call these sad songs the blues. When slavery ended, and African Americans had a little more freedom, they began to play their music with instruments, especially the guitar and the banjo. Some blues singers started to travel around the southern United States, playing their music and sharing ideas. In New Orleans, African American musicians began to use instruments like trumpets and trombones to play a mixture of blues, military marching music, and African rhythms. And jazz music was born. Over the next few years, these two styles of music continued to have an influence on each other. Many jazz artists like Louis Armstrong, Billie Holiday, and Charlie Parker played music inspired by the blues. At the same time, blues singers from the Mississippi Delta were becoming more and more popular, with a style called the Delta blues. Singers like Blind Lemon Jefferson, Robert Johnson, and Bessie Smith were some of the first popular blues singers to record their music. And for the first time, people all over the world could listen to the blues. After the Second World War, many African Americans left the southern states and moved north to industrial cities like Detroit and Chicago so that they could find work. This changed the style of blues, and for the first time, blues singers used the electric guitar and electric bass. This new sound was called the Chicago blues, and two of its most famous singers were Muddy Waters and Howlin' Wolf. At around the same time as the Chicago blues began, guitar players like Chuck Berry started to play the blues in a more upbeat style, and this became rock and roll. With singers like Elvis Presley, rock and roll became famous all over the world. And popular music changed forever. British rock bands like the Beatles and the Rolling Stones were also influenced by the blues sound. Since then, the blues has influenced many other musicians from different styles, including soul singers like James Brown, Marvin Gaye, and Otis Redding, and rock musicians like Eric Clapton and Jimi Hendrix. With so many artists inspired by the sound of the blues, it is possible to make a connection between today's popular music and the American slaves singing songs to each other in America's Deep South all those years ago.